Describe a time in your life when you have felt lonely and or helpless.
I think when me and my best friend got into like the biggest fight, we like didn't talk for a really long time, and like, I don't know, I felt like I had no one to talk to.
When there's like arguments at home and like no matter what parent you go to, it's like you're always like alone.
When my mom was sick, yeah, I felt lonely or hopeless, like I didn't know what to do.
Probably last summer, had problems with my dad.
I did get, stuck in Wildwood yesterday. I had nowhere to go. It was pretty lonely.
When I first entered school, I guess. Freshman year of high school.
Why?
I don't know, it was pretty hard.
In 6th grade, when I moved to my new town, I felt like I didn't have any friends and I felt like people were different from me.
Like in the beginning of my freshman year in high school, because it was like I was new in school and like you really don't know anybody, so you don't know what to do, where to go, who to hang out with.
Yesterday, I saw my ex-boyfriend and he was trying to like ignore me, so I just walked away from him and I felt lonely because I love him too.
One time I got arrested. I was sitting in the jail thing. It wasn't like a jail. Basically, I was like, I'm not gonna shower. I'm not gonna do anything. I felt like I was gonna go die. But then my dad bailed me out.
When I was about 5, my mom passed away. It's not a good feeling and a good situation to go through. So that's probably the loneliest time of my life.
I felt like that a lot of times in my life, but the #1 time is when I fell in love with this guy. Well, I was worshiping him more than I was worshiping God, okay? And he broke my heart. I felt like I had no one. But then when I realized that there is someone that cares about me, God cares about me, and that's what made me feel like I didn't need to be upset.
For some of us, being alone can be a scary concept.
We're so used to being surrounded by friends and family.
Maybe we always have a boyfriend or girlfriend, no matter what.
Maybe we just keep really busy with clubs and groups so that we don't ever have to have that feeling of loneliness that makes us cringe.
But for many young people, loneliness is a very real thing, not easily cured by just being in the company of others.
Some of us experience being alone as the result of something tragic, like losing a family member.
Sometimes it's due to a fight with a friend, bullying at school, or just not fitting in with the crowd.
This can often lead to feelings of hopelessness and despair, causing us to doubt the faith we have in ourselves.
And to a greater extent, the faith we have in God.
Don't give up. Overcoming loneliness and hopelessness. That's what we'll be talking about today. Hi everyone, I'm Abe.
And I'm Kristen.
And this is Real Faith TV.
The teens on the street all struggled with feeling alone at one time or another.
We'll talk with them more in a few minutes, but first, let's meet our spotlight guest, Katherine, who has struggled with periods of loneliness during different times in her life.
Let's hear her now.
When I was in the 4th grade, I switched over into a public school from a Catholic school. It was so hard to cope. Everybody was making fun of me, picking on me, and I didn't really have anybody to go to. One of the worst times was when my best friend had died. She was a senior and I was a freshman. It happened last year. She was in a car crash. She got into a car with a drunk driver. She was the one person when I joined the new school that I could talk to, that still didn't make fun of me throughout the years. I wasn't angry or mad at God. I was more in question as to why. She was 18. She was going to graduate. She wasn't given that opportunity. I was more confused, upset, and you could say worried, knowing that she was my only friend to go to. I was worried about who I was gonna go to now. I guess you can ask the question, your parents are there. At the time, I didn't want to go to my parents. I didn't want to bring it up with them. I didn't think that they would understand. I was alone and hopeless, didn't think that they would care, and I would just want to be alone. I didn't want to deal with this. I didn't want to deal with the stress, the depression, the fact that I didn't have anybody at the time.
I think it's really cool how even during that really, really tough time, she wasn't angry at God.
Yeah, that's got to be really tough on you, losing your only friend that you can turn to when you're going through difficult times in your life. Well, let's see what our studio guests think about this topic.
Okay, they are Dan, Vince, Danielle, Julianne, Phil, Caitlin, and Mary.
When are times when you felt most alone?
Probably when I'm like alone, when I don't have anyone near me. I probably feel the most alone, but sometimes like you can be in a crowded room and still feel alone when you have nothing in common with the people that you're with.
When your friends go out without you, I think, and you're like, Facebook like always makes you feel alone because everybody's like around and they're always like, oh, I'm going here, going to the beach, and you're like, well, how come I'm not going there?
When my parents went on a cruise during my sophomore year, the day they left for the cruise, they had left for the airport before I went to school. I got on the school bus that morning and I was a mess. It was the first time since I've been older, could think about it, that my parents had actually left for a long period of time. I mean, I felt really lonely because it was a time that I had to be away from my parents, and it was something that I was worried about.
The first time I went to sleepaway camp, I was actually 15. I was really upset because I couldn't be with my parents. I was just like, I don't have my mom, and I kept calling her, and she's like, you're away, go, be happy. So I guess that was the time that I felt alone.
I think I feel most alone when like it's been a long day. You get home and you kind of walk into your room all alone, and like it's late at night, no one's up to talk to.
I mean, it might sound silly, but like I always feel really alone and lonely, like if I'm home from school sick, not just for like a day, but for like 2 or 3 days, because everybody's off at school having fun, and like my parents are at work and stuff.
Always
so
having fun at school, but just at school.
Socializing with each other.
Yeah, like socializing.
You can't call anyone either because they're all at school.
Yeah.
So.
Let's face it, loneliness is not something any of us strive for. Our human nature desires companionship.
When God created the world, the Genesis story tells us that Adam felt restless with the solitude of his life.
And God said it was not good for him to be alone, so he created Eve.
This story teaches us a lot about ourselves, but also about God.
God created us in his image, and he does not live in solitude, but in relationship to the 2 other persons in the Trinity.
God also now lives in relationship with us, as we do with him.
However, it's not always easy for us to see this, especially as teenagers.
Sometimes it seems impossible for us to look beyond the loneliness and hopelessness we are experiencing.
Our spotlight guest, Katherine, felt she had hit a dead end in her life.
Her feelings of hopelessness progressed dangerously into thoughts of suicide.
Next, she discusses how she shared her feelings with someone she trusted.
And was able to find help through church activities and the dynamic Hard as Nails ministry.
There's this one person I knew that I could always go to. What she said was, you're different. You're changing. I don't know what's going on, but I wanted to let you know that I am here. I told her I didn't want to be on this earth anymore. I didn't pursue anything. I didn't put forth with wanting to hurt myself or wanting to kill myself or anything, but the thought was there. Even though that thought was there, I knew that it wasn't the way to go. She had brought me to confession. I didn't only do my penance, but I prayed extra. She saw that I was praying. She noticed that I was crying. She said, you need help. You need friends. You need someone you know you can go to. She brought me to youth group, and she had also introduced me to Justin Fatika, where I became part of his team. Justin Fatika came to our confirmation, a retreat. He had told us how he went through all this stuff. After I heard his story, it made me want to become more alive with my faith and more open to God. I know that when I went to youth group, that I still go to now, it's just a big group of people who welcome you. Every time, even whether you're best friends or whether you don't know anybody there. I go to church every Sunday. I pray for my best friend in heaven, and I pray for everybody else who thinks lowly of me. I'll sit after church and I'll pray even harder.
What have you found helpful when dealing with loneliness?
Just like talking to someone you know that you trust, so it will be like confidential, but also just for them to like empathize with you, or maybe they'll understand and help you. Just say something that will really help you get through it.
I can be in a room of like 100 people and be surrounded by people and still feel lonely. There's times where, talking to someone can help. Someone who won't judge you, someone you can trust, someone you know that if you do need that help, like Katherine said, can get you the help you need.
I think that it's good that we acknowledge it and that we start doing things about it, just within ourselves, using introspection. I mean, maybe that might be a time we want to use to think about things, to analyze what's going on in our life, or accomplish something even. Take that time where you're feeling alone to distract yourself and do something positive.
Praying can help you a lot, talking to God, and like you said earlier, when you're with God, you're never truly alone.
Yeah, I agree. Like, call me crazy, but when I'm feeling lonely, I will talk out loud to God like he's right there. And it's kind of funny when you see your neighbors looking at you, but that's not the point. The point is, like, acknowledging God is not only like the being that created you, the being that was there put every strand of hair in your head and knows everything about you and is always there to like kind of say, listen, you're my child. I created you. No matter what you're going through, no matter how on this earth, in your mortality, you feel alone. In your spirituality, I won't ever leave you. I'm always in your heart, as is my son, Jesus Christ.
So what do you think causes thoughts of loneliness and hopelessness?
That's what we asked the teens on the street.
Let's check it out.
When you don't have someone you can rely on, you feel like your friends are against you, you feel like you're lonely.
Self-pity. Like, you don't feel good about yourself.
I think that people just feel alone because there's not a lot of people like them, but they're like, that's not true because they just have to find the right people.
A lack of self-esteem, a lack of someone to talk to, and acceptance in our society.
When people put you down all the time and like you feel like, you know, like no one's there for you, like you have no one there to like help you out, like you have no friends and people just like make fun of you and they judge you without knowing you.
If you don't have somebody to talk to that's always there for you, then that's definitely loneliness.
Things like rejection and just when someone says something about you, you shouldn't care, really, because the only opinion you need is God's opinion.
I think when they lose somebody they're close to, it like just makes them feel really alone.
Losing people, that's probably the most that causes loneliness. Nobody wants to go through that, and people who have gone through that know that it hurts and that it makes you feel empty.
As we learned from the teens on the street, loneliness can come from many different situations.
Obviously, some much more serious than others.
However, the feelings it leaves with us are the same: empty, abandoned, and not in control.
If we let hopelessness consume us, we surrender the dignity that God has so generously given to each of us.
It is His grace and constant companionship that gives us the strength to pull us through during our darkest times.
It is His love that allows us to heal from the pain of living without hope.
Next, Katherine talks to us about the emotions she felt during her periods of hopelessness.
And how she sought comfort and healing in creative things, like music and writing.
I felt like I had no purpose. You wanted to have nothing to do with the world. You just wanted to get away and be away from everybody else. It's a feeling of being lost, not knowing your place or the reason as to why you're really there. It is a very hard time to go through, especially when you have no one to turn to get everything off your chest. It's really painful. The only thing that I know is I look to God. I pray every night asking for help. In a time when I'm lonely or hopeless, I write what I'm feeling. I'll write music, I'll write poems, stories, or I call someone to look for advice on what to do. You want to find someone you can trust, someone who you know will be there for you. Other things that I would do is I'd try to get out, do something fun with other friends. I would go for a walk by myself just to think. That's what helps me get my mind off things. It gets me to help myself get over things.
Katherine mentioned some activities she does while she isn't feeling good about herself.
What are ways we can embrace the time to ourselves?
Katherine sought music and writing. I think that if any of us are musicians, you can make music, you know, you can sing.
I totally agree. I'm an artist, like I work in visual arts, and when either I'm bored or like I'm feeling lonely, I either start doodling or I'll make up a whole composition, draw the whole thing out, you know, and just give myself a project, you know, to work on and keep me like focused on something. You know, and sometimes I'll write poetry too. That's another thing I like to do.
Through your talents, your deepest emotions, it channels the best of you through it. So I play guitar a lot, so I know that when I'm sad, like my best music comes out of it at times like that.
You don't even actually have to be like talented at any of that kind of stuff. Like you can just turn on your favorite song and just sing along to it as loudly as you can. And it's the alone time that you need. It's yourself and you're having fun.
Even just going outside, because it's just like really peaceful outside. So even like running or going like walking my dog, just something like that.
Some people spend all their time around people, but they don't really have that time of self-reflection or self-meditation that everyone needs, where they spend that time talking to God, sitting, thinking, resting, recovering, and really get your mind off and separated from the world and everything that's hustling and bustling.
When I was younger, I didn't appreciate my time alone, and I used to actually be afraid of being alone and not being around people. But then one of my teachers, I really didn't like her too much because she was my math teacher and I despised math. She goes, "Mary, what you need is some alone time." And she put me in her classroom and shut the door and left for about an hour. And she came back and I had written this beautiful poem. And you know, she took away my phone, she took away my iPod. I didn't have anything to do. And I had that time to just reflect. And I try to make it a habit, you know, to have that time away from everyone, because you need time to reflect.
One thing that can be good when we're alone is that we can see the world in a new way.
Sometimes being alone just gives us room to try something new, because we have the freedom to not have to do what everyone wants to do.
Having interests outside of your group of friends can also help strengthen your own self-concept.
It can be intimidating to go to a new group alone, but sometimes you can't get anyone to go with you.
And sometimes you just need to do things alone to build your own confidence.
So what is some other advice we can give to someone who is feeling lonely and hopeless?
We asked that to the teens on the street.
Let's hear what they had to say.
There's plenty of things you can do, you know, just go out, go for a walk, you know, do something, you know, real relaxing, put music on.
Find the purpose, like find what you love to do, like a sport, find if you're good at school, if your religion.
Go out, make some friends.
Try to find somebody you're close with and like who you can really share your feelings with.
Find someone who will accept them for who they are, no matter how hard it is.
You just need somebody to talk to and you'll be fine. What other people think, like their opinions, it doesn't matter, because you're who you are, like it's in your heart. You'll know what to do.
Try out for like sports or like clubs and stuff where they can meet people and make new friends and like people that are into what they're into also.
Like join like groups in school and stuff and try to make new friends.
Just take it day by day.
Keep your head up. Know that you always have God there, even though sometimes you feel like He's not there or He left you for some sort of reason. He didn't. He's always there. All you gotta do is pray and He'll answer you.
Have faith. God's real. He's right on the boardwalk right now.
So is it easy to find God in our times of loneliness?
I think it is, because like even if you're going for a walk, God's all around you.
It depends on the person. Some people, they'll feel lonely, but they'll automatically know God is there. It just depends on how strong you are in your faith.
Well, sometimes when you're alone, you kind of look to God because He's the only one you have left to look to, but sometimes you're in such a lonely state, you know, you even begin to doubt your faith, you know, like you begin to doubt that not only there's no physical human being surrounding you, but there's no God around you either. You know, you start to look at things in a very dark manner. When I'm really lonely, you know, it's hard to keep your faith.
It's not easy. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of introspection. I know a specific time in my life, I felt like I couldn't turn to God. You feel so lonely that you feel that no one wants to talk to you, and you forget that your Heavenly Father's with you. You have to know that there is people who are around you, and Jesus and God are most definitely with you.
And I think it's really important to remember, and it makes it easier to talk to God. We remember that Jesus was on this earth. He was human and divine, so He experienced loneliness. I mean, when He was on the cross, when He was praying in the garden, He was talking to God, but I'm sure He felt lonely. He thought, like, I'm gonna have to go through something really terrible tomorrow, and you know, all these people are gonna disagree with me, and He's gonna be beaten, and like all these horrible things are gonna happen to Him. So I'm sure He felt lonely too. So if we think when we're lonely, you know, Jesus, you felt this way. Like, you understand me. Like, even if you feel like no one else understands, we know that God understands. So I think He's the best person to turn to.
God asks us to spend time alone with Him.
This seems like a little bit of a contradiction, because with God, we are really never alone.
But by not having someone physically next to us, being in a space that is just for us and God is a special thing.
It is more unusual for any of us to make space like that for God and spend time alone without the distractions of others, or even the input of others.
When we are alone with God, we have the freedom to be ourselves with Him.
We can talk to Him and cry to Him.
Next, our spotlight guest Katherine shares some advice on how growing in a personal relationship with God helps turn hopeless thoughts into hopeful ones.
And how we can find strength through prayer and companionship in church ministry.
Look to God. Pray for help. God is there. He will also point you in the way to go. Join a youth group, which also causes you to make more friends. Be involved in sports in school. Listen to music. If I were to recommend any music to listen to, Christian music definitely is a thumbs up. Keep your options open for opportunities to meet people and not to be afraid to look outside the box. Try to go to that one person, that one friend that you think you can trust. Go to your priest or a minister at your church. The thing that I always tell myself is, forget about me, I love you. It spells family. That means you're not the main focus. You care about what other people want. If they're lonely, you go to help them. It's a good way to reach out to other people and also help yourself. It makes you feel more comfortable with yourself. When I pray the Our Father, the Hail Mary. I pray the Rosary also, Sorrowful Mystery. I was experiencing sorrow. I knew that I had some relation to sorrow, as Mary did, when she was experiencing the sadness and despair of Jesus Christ dying on the cross for us. Mary was an adult. To know that not only teens go through it, but also adults go through it, is something also to tell me that I'm not alone. I'm never gonna forget that God is always there. I'm always gonna forgive other people's wrongs, know that there are other people out there in distress and in need. We need to help them, see what we can do to change their lives. Because I know that my life was changed. I'm a brand new person now.
Like what Katherine said, you have to know that there is people out there.
If you want to be active in your faith or go out for a sport, that's always good. Youth groups, there's plenty of youth groups. You can always look around, see if you find one you really like. Youth ministry is another excellent way to get active and really pull yourself out of loneliness, because it's doing service for God, but you also meet a lot of new people, a lot of interesting people.
And not only meeting new people, it's like what she said, forget about me, I love you. You have to think about other people out there and how they may be having it worse than you.
What Katherine said about the sorrowful mysteries, I always wear my rosary bracelet. And they say that holding the rosary is like holding the hand of the Blessed Mother. And what more comfort do I want than knowing that the Blessed Mother is always here, right with me, you know? And it makes me happy. I got this bracelet from a sister in my parish. It always reminds me that I'm not alone. Someone's always there with me.
Yeah, you also have to remember though too, if you're in like a serious state of depression and you can't, like even going out and finding people or helping others isn't helping you, you really should seek professional help too.
Jesus showed us how to pray by his example.
It's not that he didn't go to the temple to worship or that he didn't pray at meals with his followers.
But when he wanted to spend time with God, he would go off on a mountaintop alone or go out into the desert to pray.
We don't have to go up on mountains or to deserts, but we can be alone with God just like Christ was.
In Matthew chapter 6, Jesus tells us,
"But when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen.
Then your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you."
Finally, we asked the teens on the street,
how has prayer or faith helped you during times of hopelessness?
Let's see what they had to say.
Faith's helped me plenty of times, you know, when things weren't looking too good.
When I was feeling down, my family was feeling down, it provided a lot for me. It gave me a lot of hope, lifting me up.
Through like hard times, so like that, I think like when you pray, you have hope.
When you feel hopeless and you feel lonely and there's nothing else to do, pray and just letting it out, even knowing that, you know, you're speaking to someone, it releases a lot.
Prayer is the best way to get everything out.
I think when you pray, miracles happen.
When I just pray, I feel like things like work out a lot better than if I just like try to ignore it.
When you go to church and stuff, like you see what like God really wants you to do.
You can't be selfish and be like, oh, God, please let me win the lottery. God, please let this guy love me. Like, no, if he'll give you something if it's in his plan for you.
A lot of my friends, they don't believe in God, and I'm always telling them, just pray. And trust me, it's hard. My friends are partying, going out, but you know, get on your knees and like put your hands up and pray. It helps a lot.
So I was reading through this handbook earlier about faith, and it says that hope in God is closely connected to faith, and that it enables us to keep our eyes on the prize of heaven. It inspires us in life to help us overcome discouragement, even when situations seem hopeless. Maintaining hope in God helps us to remember, you know, that we're going through this ultimate destiny and that we're going to be able to get through difficulties. You know, if we have a strong faith in God, if we always have that hope and belief that tomorrow will be a brighter day, and if we love ourselves enough, then we can get through times of loneliness, we can get through times of despair and hopelessness.
That reminds me of one of my favorite songs. And one time I was in my room, closed the door, you know, just relaxing, and I actually took time to listen to the lyrics. And it's like, I know you're always there, to hear my every prayer inside. So I know you're there, and sometimes I lose faith, but I know I can always come back to you. So yes, you know, sometimes we don't feel 110%, but God is always with us.
For me, I always think tomorrow, because no matter how bad one day could be, no matter how like negative things could get, there's always going to be that next day. The world is not going to stop and be stuck in that one area. There's always hope for a new day, a brighter day coming. And
By praying to God and being open to what He has to say to us, we can always be in conversation with Him.
God is never that far away that He cannot hear us when we need Him most.
While there will be times in our lives when the people we love may hurt us, leave us, even deny us,
God's promise reassures our Christian belief that He is always present and ready to deliver us out of the darkness of loneliness and despair,
and into the light of everlasting life.
So, how are you using faith to reach out to those who feel hopeless and lonely?
We'd love to hear from you.
Contact us at RealfaithTV.com.
Or follow us on Twitter.
And we'll leave you with this verse from Psalm 91.
Say to the Lord, my refuge and fortress, my God in whom I trust.
God will rescue you from the fowler's snare, from the destroying plague.
Will shelter you with pinions, spread wings that you may take refuge.
God's faithfulness is a protecting shield.
Thanks for watching.
We'll see you next time on
Real Faith TV. God bless.